Does the Burton Max Digital Induction Cooktop Burner have enough power to season a brand new carbon steel skillet? We're going to do an in-depth review and find out. Hi, and welcome to Uncle Scott's Kitchen. All right, let's open her up. Here it is, the Burton Digital Induction Cooktop. Now, why get an induction burner? For me, I wanted to get one because I review carbon steel skillets, and I do that on a gas stove top. I occasionally use an electric flat top stove top, but I've never used a carbon steel skillet on an induction cooktop. Okay, this Burton says it has 1800 watts. Now that's something I was really looking for. I wanted one with a lot of power, and it says it has 15 temperature settings, 100 up to 450. And the reason I wanted to get one that will go up to 450 is that's above the smoking point of canola oil. So 450 degrees should be powerful enough to season one of these carbon steel skillets. We should be able to get that canola oil up above its smoking point. So we'll see about that. Okay, it looks like a pretty simple keypad. There's a lock, simmer button, timer, rapid boil button. I'm worried about that with my carbon steel skillets, but we'll see. Let's get her plugged in and see how she cooks. Fancy $300 copper Mauviel saucepan. Sorry buddy, you won't work on induction. Back to the rack. Gotta bring in the Cuisinart. Cuisinart saucepan, had it for 16 years, says it's induction ready. Let's give her a try. So to give the unit a fair review and put it through its paces, I thought we'd start with something easy, boiling water, and then work up to food and seasoning carbon steel. So using my trusty tri-ply 3-quart Cuisinart saucepan, I put 4 cups of water on to boil. Turn the unit on, hit the boil button, and it was actually impressive. It brought 4 cups of water up to boil in about 4 minutes. Nice. The surface of the unit away from the pan stayed cool as well. I then switched to my faithful All-Clad tri-ply 4-quart saucepan and doubled the water to 8 cups. This time it took a little over 8 minutes. Still nice. I did it again with 12 cups of water. This time it took a little over 12 minutes, so it boils roughly 1 cup of water per minute. Now I'm at high altitude, and the Google says that water boils here at a little over 203 degrees, so it might take a little bit longer on the coast. And for comparison, I boiled the same amount of water on a medium-sized burner on my gas stove. And although it was close, gas beat the induction by a little less than a minute. So the induction doesn't have any advantage when it comes to boiling greater amounts of water. Now moving on to the good stuff, seasoning carbon steel. I am using a brand new Mauviel M'Steel 11-inch frying pan. I cleaned it, got the beeswax off, and I'm going to use the Matfer method to perform an initial seasoning on this induction burner. This means I am sauteing the skins of a few potatoes, 2/3 of a cup of salt, and 1/3 cup of oil for 10 or 15 minutes or so. And here's where the trouble started. The Burton produced a colored spot of bad seasoning only directly over the burner coil. The seasoning didn't spread out to the sides and up the edges of the pan. Okay, so I've called a halt to the first seasoning test, and honestly I'm a little bit annoyed, actually very annoyed. The induction burner did not produce a uniform heat across the bottom of the pan. I started this on a low temperature at 200. I had food in the pan, I had salt, I had oil in the pan, and things started sizzling very quickly near the middle of the pan. But it got up more than 100 degrees more than what I had set the temperature at. So then I went up to 250, 300, and 350. And the temperature of the pan in certain spots got up to 490 something degrees. In other parts of the pan at the same time were still down around 170 degrees. So even if the infrared temperature thermometer is not precisely accurate to the 1/10 of a degree, it still shows the vast differential in temperatures between different areas of the pan. It also shows that the temperature you set on the induction burner itself is wildly different than the temperature at different parts of the pan. I'm getting a dark ring in part of the pan, and the rest of the pan is not seasoning. At least it doesn't seem to be seasoning at all. And honestly, I don't want to ruin this new pan. There's no reason a pan should be ruined just from using it the first time. So I don't know. I'm annoyed. I then cooked some of the potatoes I had peeled. Note that while the pan was warming up, a hot spot formed and some of the oil started smoking right on the hot spot. So I added some more oil and continued to cook the potatoes. I found that I had to move the potatoes around to get even cooking and browning. Next I wanted to check and see if this was a problem with the burner or with the new Mauviel pan itself. So I cooked more potatoes in a Lodge cast iron and another batch in a fancy all-clad stainless steel copper core skillet. And I got the same results, uneven cooking with the pan being searing hot in the center over the coil and relatively cooler towards the edges. Of course, big whoop for potatoes, you know, but what if you were cooking a chicken breast? You could easily have one end of it well done while the other end isn't up to a safe temperature. So that worried me a little. Everything started at room temperature, which around here is a perky 65.8. You know, I thought it felt a little chilly in here, and I made one move towards the thermostat, and my wife caught me and said, "Put on a sweater, buddy." Instead of setting the exact temperature, you can also set the unit by power level, ranging from 1 to 10. Next, I switched over to another cast iron pan and set the unit to power level 1. It went to around 300 degrees. I turned it up to power level 2, and it quickly went to over 500 degrees. And it started my pan smoking and burned off a circle of my seasoning right above the coil. And it happened so quickly the handle was still less than 100 degrees. And that's only at power level 2. You know, it goes to 10. What am I doing here? Fusing hydrogen? Okay, this thing was driving me crazy, so I decided to do a little bit more testing, see if I could figure anything out. And it turns out I just confused myself even more. Now I would heat a dry pan, a dry cast iron pan, as you might do if you were going to sear some meat. Put the thermostat on 200 and we were off to the races again. It would way overshoot. And just to make sure that my temperature readings were correct, I took a little bit of oil and wiped it around the pan. And you can see that it's smoking heavily. The smoking point of this oil is a little over 400 degrees, so I know that the pan is over 400, yet the thermostat is set on 200. In the smaller Cuisinart pan, I put a couple of cups of water in there, set the unit at 150. It didn't really do anything. The temperature didn't really come up over 100. It stayed in the 80s and 90s. When I put it on 175, just 25 degrees higher on the thermostat, the water came up to a simmer and you could see the thermostat kick on and off. It would just do little bitty pulses of boiling every now and then. So 150 gets you nothing, 175 gets you boiling. So I guess really what I have figured out is that the thermostat to me does not seem very accurate at all. And I don't know why, but it seems to make a difference between heating a dry pan, heating a pan with water in it, and heating a pan with oil in it. You get 3 different temperatures. It does 3 different things, same pan, but different ingredients. And I don't really understand why. And for the finale, I tried to do some maintenance seasoning on my beloved Matfer carbon steel skillet. The one my wife bought for me, the one I've cooked in over 300 times with no problems. Now how do I know I've cooked in it more than 300 times? I keep a pan journal. What? And when I couldn't find good seasoning info online, it's the pan that inspired me to do my first YouTube video 2 years ago to help others like me out. And this Burton Induction Burner warped it the very first time I used it. The Matfer was flat as a pancake and now it spins. So I tested 7 pots and pans, including Lodge, All-Clad, Cuisinart, Matfer, and Mauviel, all top quality brands. I took many temperature readings throughout each of these tests, and the problems seemed clear to me. This Burton Induction Burner goes from 0 to thermonuclear very quickly, especially right over the coil. The heat doesn't transfer uniformly throughout the pans, and furthermore, the thermostat doesn't seem to produce any meaningful temperature control. Now, I don't want to be too harsh. After all, this is a portable burner. It's not a big standalone range. So on the upside, the rapid heating is great for boiling water. Maybe for ramen noodles in a dorm room or heating a can of soup in a break room at the office, it might do okay. But really, I bought this to try induction cooking, especially with my carbon steel pans and skillets. And of the 2 carbon steels I tried on it, it produced very weird seasoning on one of them and warped the heck out of the other one. So that was not good at all. Furthermore, trying different cooking tests with different pans, This thing, it just produced uneven heating and uneven cooking results. So all in all, unfortunately, I'm going to have to give this unit a big thumbs down. Now, if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel. Here are links to some other carbon steel videos that you might find interesting. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next time on Uncle Scott's Kitchen.